Hello everybody. We today are going to look at doing a full mix from start to finish. We might have to break this video up into a couple of parts, but it's going to be the same session. We're going to take it from start to finish, get you familiar with it. This is a set of tracks that I got from... Let me find the tab. Is what the stems are. I got these from Cambridge MT. So all of these files that you see here is what we're going to be working with. So we got kick, rim shot, snare, blah, 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 blah. We got some interesting stuff. We got some sax, trombone, some other weird things going on. The readme text here. Just make sure that we've seen all the info here. It is Colton Benjamin's Can't Let You Go, for educational purposes, for sure, and not for commercial. That's what we're doing. So 26 WAV files at 2444.1, and the tempo 84 BPM. This could be very useful to us later. I don't know yet. I haven't listened to it, so we're going to do this together. So, first things first, I have imported the audio into the session, so we're here, we're ready to go. If we look over here, there's some other old audio files from another session, so don't worry about that. That's why my face is over the top of it. Okay, so if we have a look at this, I've got a whole heap of different audio files. What I'm going to do very quickly is I've just created a master fader here. It's all going to my main output. And I've now selected, if you see here, if I select one of my tracks, hold down shift, roll all the way to the other end, select that one. I'm going to hit Command G and I'm going to create a group. And this is going to be, I already have an all group over here. It's not my all group. It's everything, just everything other than our master track for right now. And what I'm going to do is bring that down because the volume level of all of those tracks playing back right now is going to be super loud, not super great. So let's play it back and just get a general feel for what the hell this song is. Some crooning vocals. I'm going to jump down to here where they seem to double up a bit. I would never let you go. Oh, that guitar's amazing. Alright, so it's like a bluesy, rocky, soul-y kind of thing. What I'm going to do really quickly now is I'm going to return all of these to full volume so that we can snap through them really quickly. I'm going to go up into my options and I'm going to go down to my solo mode. And in here, we have this guy, the XOR mode. If you're in latch mode, if you hit solo, it will, we turn our grip off. It will turn all of these on, but then I have to go back and cancel these ones, right? So when I'm snapping through my track, and in most situations really, when I solo one thing, I want the other solo to disappear. So this mode now, when I solo one, it will turn off the others. Look at that. All right, so now that we've got this set up, I'm going to solo my kick. I'm going to hit play and get a feel for what it sounds like. Sounds like a kick. Great. Okay, rim shot. The section where it plays. Nice. Snare. Oh, it's like a snare bottom mic. It's really sizzly. You got all that snare, actual crispy snare coming underneath. Great. Hi-hats. Again, on and off, on and off. Let's find a part where they play. Okay, kind of grungy hi-hats, but we can work with that. We got some tom samples. These might be real or they might just literally be samples. Let's find out. Ooh, it's so clean. Great, we can work with that. Next tom. Bit lower, what a surprise. And then our bigger bassy toms. Boom. Great. We got another tom in here. Oh, we got 4 toms. We got big rolls happening. Rad. Okay, our overhead should give us a full feel. So not much bass coming through in them. Room mic. Gonna be using that one. Sounds great. Bass. Very clean. Very clean bass. So coming from a DI probably. Now let's go through our electric guitars. We've got a few happening here. Alright, that's our solo guy. We've got some crooning background stuff and that green one up here. What's this guy? Looks like this is double track. Oh. Ah. Insertion follows playback. This little guy up here, really frustrating. I want to make sure that every time I put my cursor here, it's going to go back to that same spot. So, now let's listen. Awesome. That sounds so thick. Let's listen to this. So we've got a bass one, and then we have... So played together. Awesome. Excellent. Down here. This guy. Nice. Now Rhodes is like an organ. Let's see what processing's on this. Clean. Great. Sounds awesome. Sax. Is it a real sax? Is it a fake one? I mean, it's alright. Kind of sounds like a saxophone. Trombone. There's some clicky, weird stuff going on in here. Let's go back to that. You can hear these little pressure sounds in here. Sounds like a little click. We might need to mess around with that later. We'll come back to it. We'll find out. We got our lead vocal.
I'm leaving, but I'll be back someday.
Ooh.
I'll take this.
We got some doubles down here.
I could keep waiting for better days to come.
Great. Now we got other doubles for other sections.
I would never let you go, babe.
Choruses. We got some backing vocals in here. Normally can sound quite funny when they're played by themselves.
I can't let go. I can't let go. I can't let go.
Alright, so we got 3 individuals and then we got the lead.
No, I can't let go.
Yes! Love it. Okay, so there's nothing in here that's labeled incorrectly. There's nothing in here that's a broken audio file with nothing on it. So we can start work, right? What I'm going to do now to get us started is I am going to, one, for my own sanity, just color code these things. I'm going to highlight all my drums, just holding down shift and selecting the next one. And for me, I don't care what my colors are. Some people are very particular and drums need to be red or guitars need to be blue or whatever else. I don't care. My only concern is that when I am looking around my session, I can very clearly see what is one category and what is another. So I'm just trying to make these bright and stand out different to each other. So we got some lead vocals. It can be yellow, sure. And then I got backing vocals. She can be orange. Okay, so we're looking through our session and I can scroll through and I go, all these blue ones or teal or aqua, whatever, are all my drums, bass, guitars. We got our organ, Then we got these other ones. Accidentally putting stuff on here. Okay, so let's start to get this rolling. So I'm going to grab my everything guy and I'm going to pull that all the way down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the very start of the session. I'm going to hit play. We won't hear anything because everything is turned down apart from our master. And I'm going to start to build my session, right? So I'm going to grab the parts I really liked. I really like that room sound and I'm going to build into that. And then we're going to get a rough mix before we start doing anything else. So let's do that. Let's get... Oh yeah, take the group off. That would be smart. There we go. Go back to the start because I need that snare. And what I'm looking for between my kick and my snare here is I want them to feel like if they're both punching out at me, that they feel like it's an even kind of weight behind them. So even if my levels look really weird and they don't look even, if they feel even, then it's fine. Because remember, there's a whole heap of these instruments that exist in my room mics, and what I'm doing right now is I'm just filling in the gaps with these close mics. So if the levels look a little bit funny but it sounds right, it's right. Alright, let's go to where these toms hit down here. Play that back. Okay, now this is something really important right now. I have my overheads and I have my room mic. In this, these are stereo mics. And I haven't panned anything, but I can hear my toms going da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So they're going from my left ear over to my right ear. So let's listen to this. Okay, so this tells me that da-da-da-da-da-da-da. My drums with my overheads were recorded from drummer's perspective. It's like I'm sitting in front of the drums and I'm going do-do-do-do-do-do-do, boom. And they're panned out like that. If they were going the other way and going do-do-do-do-do-do, boom, either we have a left-handed drummer or it's been mixed to audience perspective. I like mixing in drummer's perspective, so I will leave these like they are, but I need to be aware when I go to pan these toms that I'm putting them in the same spots. So let's do this fun little thing. I'm going to zoom right in here. I'm going to find these toms. I'm going to find this little roll. Great. Love it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my toms in one by one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to press shift play, which is going to play it in half speed. So what I can do by playing at half speed is it just gives me that little bit more time to actually hear where it is on my stereo spectrum. So now I can pan them. All right, so let's try that. I just need to check this one because it doesn't play right now. So come down to this little roll and we do the same thing with the overheads. Ooh. Let's listen to that one. Yeah! Okay, so now they feel like they're actually in the same room together. Great. If you were to just pick the random spots that you wanted your toms to go, it's going to be coming through in your distant mics in one spot and then your close mics in another spot. It makes everything really disjointed and not as tight and precise as we could have it. So this gets us there. All right, on to the next bit. So we got some drum levels. Let's get some levels on the rest of this bad boy. I'm going to go back to the start of my session. I'm going to hit play.
By your side, I never ask how your day went by. I wouldn't know how to make it right. Where all that came with time. I'm leaving, but I'll be back someday. I'll take this.
So as we're going through here, just to explain what I'm doing, I'm letting it play, I'm seeing what instruments come in, and then I'm jumping to them and starting to turn their levels up and just kind of playing around, going back, hearing some things a bit louder, turning them down. I'm not paying a stupid amount of attention to it, clearly. I'm just trying to get some rough level vibes happening. So keep doing the rest.
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go, baby.
Alright, we got a general vibe. Is there anything we haven't turned up? Saxophone, trombone, and this electric guitar. So that electric guitar only plays at the end.
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go.
Alright, the vibe's generally good. I'm gonna make a group with my drums. Remember, that's Command G, select the tracks, call it drums. And now what I can do is I can just kind of turn all of them up or down a little bit.
I would never let you go.
Great. Okay, so it's sounding pretty tight. The other part, we keep peaking our master fader. This is okay, because this is just rough levels. Remember we made that group with everything in it? Over here, our everything group. Now I can turn everything down, and my mix is exactly the same, but healthy levels. Oh, yeah. Great. Okay, so thing with this mixing process. I'm going to get rid of some of these extra sends I don't need. Let's get rid of the inserts too. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is I am trying to create a mix where I'm not overdoing it, but I'm processing the things that need processing. So how do we find out what needs processing? We listen, right? So I'm going to start it from the start, and we're going to listen, and if anything jumps out to us, maybe something drops out, it's not as clear, something just doesn't have the power behind it should, something's grating or has weird high frequencies to it, then we start looking at what we need to clear up. So let's have a look. Slow build. Bass can be louder.
Even though I never stand by your side, I never ask how your day went by. I wouldn't know how to make it right, where all that came with time. I'm leaving, but I'll be back someday. I'll take this blue stepping over my face. I'm just trying to pick up the pace, to grab those tears from your face. Darling, I would never let you go.
Okay, look, generally it's sitting pretty well, but a couple of things that jump out. One, we're going to need to get into panning. We'll do that in a bit. I like to mix in practically mono until I am close to done. With my vocals, these need some freshening up, some work. So, to do that, I am going to take these lead vocal channels. I'm going to remind myself of what exists on them. Let's have a little look. We have two different sections. It's sung by different people in different parts. We got double track stuff in the chorus, and then for like some of this part, it's just the one vocal rocking it. I need to clean these up, right? It's the same voice. It's the same vocalist on all of these. On this,
Even though I never stand by your side,
as this,
I would never let you go, but
and as these two.
I could keep waiting for better days to come.
Okay, right now for my lead vocal, I don't need to do a whole heap of processing on this to each track individually, but I can process them together. Now, with these lead vocals, even with the double tracked versions, for my lead vocal, I want to keep a mono. So what I'm doing is holding down Command and using my arrows to change up and down what type of track it is. It's going to be an aux track, how many channels, mono, stereo. If you're on a 5.1 system, you'll have 5.1 as well. But with mono, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say, yeah, create that. This is going to be my lead vox master. I'm going to solo isolate it, so anytime I solo one of these tracks, it'll come through. And now I'm going to take these four, hold down Option, Shift, to apply the same setting, but to the selected tracks. And I'm going to send them out to a bus. So they're all going to bus 1. Now, that sound is coming in here. But it's coming out at whatever level I've sent it here. So,
I could keep waiting for better days to come.
that's all coming over here. So what this means is that my processing now, over here, I'm doing it to all 4 of those tracks at the same time with whatever I put on here. So let's clean it up a little bit, right? So now I'm starting to do it on multiple tracks. Let's make a group. Lead vocals. Great. Solid. Ready to go.
I could keep waiting.
Okay. I don't need all this extra sub bass in here. So let's take some out until we notice it starts affecting it. So if I come over to here, let's just loop a couple of words in
I
here.
wouldn't know how to make it right,
Alright, so not that far.
where all that came with time. I wouldn't know how to make it right.
Getting rid of any junk that's in here that we don't need. Now, in my low mids, there's always going to be gross frequency. So we're going to use this guy. We're going to sweep around till we hear them. And then when we hear them, we're going to take them out a little bit. So let's have a look.
I wouldn't know how to make it right, where all that came with time. I wouldn't know how to make it right.
Ugh, it's gross.
With all that came with time.
So I don't need to go
I wouldn't
hardcore.
know how to make it.
And if I want to find other ones, there's a little bit more up in this mid.
I wouldn't know how to make it right. With all that came with time.
Okay. It's not a massive difference, right?
I wouldn't know how to make it right.
Cutting out some of that extra bass. Let's hear it in context, and let's hear it with some extra layers here.
I would never let you go.
Not bad.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Yeah, it's fine. So we're going to stay on our lead vocal for a second. What I'm going to do is go back to this view. I'm going to put a compressor on here. Now, with our compressor, I am going to pick a generic one. There is the Pro Tools stock standard Dyne 3 compressor. I don't like it, and it's also wigging out while I'm trying to do streaming. So I'm going to use my actual preferred one, which is the Pro compressor. If you pay the like $5-10 a month, whatever it is, to get the plugin bundle for Pro Tools. There you go. We did open it before, but that's fine. It'll give you the selection of plugins. One part of that selection are the Pro compressors, expanders, all the Pro series. So with this plugin, I really like it because it's also really easy to visually explain. So if we have a look what's going on over here, I'm going to play this sample back. Let's see if we have a little bit of our lead vocal here that is quiet words and then loud words. Oh, we got a couple. Got like this end vocal.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. This time I gotta go.
Okay. So even though we're processing multiple vocals at once, we're going to look at it the same way. My threshold, whatever goes over my threshold, whatever is loud enough that it pops up over the top of this bar. This is essentially like your faders down here, but turned sideways. So imagine you take that fader, put it on the side, this level jumping across here, this little orange dot.
I would never let you go.
That's the top of your little green over here. So as this jumps up, I'm looking for my loud words to go over the threshold, but I'm looking for my quiet words to stay below the threshold, because whatever goes over my threshold gets turned down. Do I want to turn down quiet words? Nah, that's dumb. So
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
Cool. That's just touching those quiet words, but my loud words go completely over.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Go. That oh at the end is sitting down, just down here.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But
Yeah.
this time
Excellent. Okay. So with my ratio, where do you think about this? We have 1 to 3 at the moment, or 3 to 1 is our basic. Ratios and maths, I hate it. Great. I'm an audio engineer, and a big portion of my job is physics. But aside from that, with ratios, think about it this way. Whatever goes over your threshold has to get turned down. Your ratio determines how much it gets turned down. Now, it's pretty nice with this visual. If we're down at a 2 to 1, it's kind of gentle slope. If we crank it up, it gets a little bit more steep. So what we're looking at here, and the way that my brain likes to remember it, is 1 to 1. 1 to 1 means that for every 1 dB that goes over the threshold, 1 dB gets played back. So nothing happens. With a 2 to 1 threshold, for every 2 dBs over the threshold, we only get 1 back. So my brain works with these better as fractions. It's not perfect maths, but it'll do you to give you a good understanding of how it works, right? So if something goes over my threshold, that means that now, if its peak was this big, only half of that is going to get through. So it's going to be half as loud over the threshold. If I have a ratio of 6:1, like that, that means that for all of this sound that goes over my threshold, only a sixth of it will actually get through. So we're squashing it a little bit more intensely. We're just trying to flatten it out, right? For vocals, generally speaking, depends on how intense and weird the vocal is, but I'm normally playing somewhere between 4:1 up to 6:1. If it's something crazy, then I maybe go higher than that, but let's just drop it in the middle somewhere. Okay, the next part of it is with my vocal, we've got my gain reduction meter on here. Let's watch that.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
It's holding little parts of the words, so I'm going to bring that release time up a little bit.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Now it's holding the whole word. 1 second's probably a little bit too long, but here we go.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Yeah, it's holding the word. Nice. Now with our attack time, when something goes over the threshold, how long do I make the compressor wait before it applies that compression? Sometimes you might want it to be no time. If it goes over, it's getting compressed. Sometimes you want to give it a second so that it can let a little peak come through and then squash it. It's really good for bass. You might want to accentuate the bump on the bass, make your attack time a little bit longer, and it'll let that through. For this vocal, I'll play around with that and see how we go.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
That's fine. Now, makeup gain. People say compressors make things louder. No. Compressors technically turn things down. The thing that we do, the thing that we can do with it is we can add our makeup gain and boost it up so that all this stuff that we've turned down, look at it where its max is.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Okay, so generally we're sitting around 6 dBs that we've taken away from our loud sounds. It peaks up to about 9 at one point, but that's only for a tiny second. So around 6 dBs is going to be a good spot to start.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Okay, so we flattened it out. Now, I'm going to unsolo these. Does this mean we can hear it better over our mix?
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Yeah, it does. Sounds great. Okay. Couple of other little things. This vocal, to me, is a little gritty, a little S-y. T's and S's. We have D-S's. These guys work like a compressor, but they take the high frequencies and they just dip them down a little bit. So with this high frequency button, I'm gonna find where
I would never let you go.
What I can do is I can listen to the frequencies that this guy is hearing.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
It's like the whole vocal. Now if I don't do high frequencies only,
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
I could be turning down these weird bass frequencies. I don't want to do that. I only want to mess with my high frequencies.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time
What I'm looking for is I'm trying to find the spot where it's really painful. So
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
can't quite find it. I'm gonna dip this down a little bit.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Okay, so I would never let you go. The ch sound is what's annoying me. If I take this off,
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
now with this,
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
it just softens everything up. We're taking some of this grittiness out of the highs. Now, we've done this for our lead vocal. We're not into the fun effects or anything yet, but with my backing vocals, these I do want to be able to pan. I want to be able to put them out in the background. And I also want to be lazy and process them the same way. There's nothing in these backing vocals that is drastically different, and they only pop in for a few seconds per the chorus that they are in. So, screw it. Let's send them out to a stereo bus. with this auxiliary, this is gonna be now my backing vocal master, or you could just call it its bus. I'm gonna solo isolate them. I'm gonna make another group because we had to do that before, so they're gonna be back vox. Great. Now I can solo them all in one hit, which is also great. I'm gonna go to my buses, bus 3 and 4, which is where I've sent these to. Let's listen to them. Let's find the little part where they sing.
I can't let go.
Cool. That's it. So, same vocal. Let's take this EQ. I'm holding down Option and copying it down to this track. Now I can copy from a mono track to a stereo track, but you'll notice when I go to copy this one back, it goes red and it says I can't copy it because it doesn't have the right amount of inputs. Mono to stereo, fine. Stereo, sorry, I just realized that was probably out of view. Stereo, back to mono, no good. So, what we're going to do now is I am going to copy this de-esser. I'm also going to copy my compressor. We probably need to tweak the settings a little bit, but...
I can't let go. I can't let go.
Okay, so that's one little bit that they sing in. They have another part.
I can't let go.
Okay, it's doing alright. I'm just going to bring that threshold back a little bit.
I can't let go.
So it's flattening them a little more. And
Let you go. I can't let go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
great. I can hear it. Hell yeah. I am gonna make one stereo aux now, which is going to be... My computer wants to cooperate. My vocal reverb. Now, with my vocal reverb, I want to send both my lead vocals into it. So we send it to, let's say, 5 and 6. And I also want to send my backing vocals. Now, because I have a master, I don't need to do it from the individual channels. I can do it straight from the master. Sometimes I might want to get some more specific levels, then I can take it off my master and do individuals. But for now, that's totally fine. So this is bus 5 and 6. So all these vocals will be doubled and louder now if I play this back.
Let you go. I can't let go.
Oh, they would be if I had turned their level up. Boom.
Let you go. I can't let go.
Alright, our vocals are real loud. We don't want that. Let's go to our reverb. I'm going to pick the stock standard Pro Tools reverb. And let's get something that sounds pretty. So,
Let you go. I can't let go. I would never let you go.
I'm normally a bit of a sucker for a church reverb and then tailoring it back.
Let you go. I can't.
Yeah. So my decay time is how long that tail is going to go. I don't want it. 8 seconds.
Let you go. I can't.
Kind of cool. The other part is the pre-delay. The pre-delay at the moment, or the pre-delay in life, is me talking right now. My voice is going out, it's hitting my walls, and it's bouncing back to me. In my room right now, that pre-delay is really short. That first delay before it gets back to me, it's really short because my wall's right here. But if I'm in a church, the sound's got to travel all the way down to the other end, and then it's got to bounce all the way back to the other end. It's going to feel a little bit different. So this pre-delay is what makes it feel big. It's that extra delay. So if I want to take that down a little bit, I can take the pre-delay off.
Let you go.
And it will soften it up a little bit. My other part here is my cuts, my filters. What these allow me to do is roll out excess high frequency.
Let you go. I can't let go. I would never let you go.
So now it's all bass frequency. I want a little bit of sparkle in there.
Let you go.
And the difference between this is a shelf EQ. So like we have this EQ. This is a shelf EQ, right? Can change it. Great. This is a filter. where we're eliminating. Whoa, gotta turn it on. Where we're eliminating those sounds and turning them down infinitely, right? That's the difference between our filter and our shelf, and that is the difference between a high frequency cut and our filter in this plugin.
Let you go, I can't let go.
Now, think about how this is going to work. My lead vocal needs to stand out in front, so therefore my lead vocal needs to be less reverby. For my backing vocals, they can be hella reverby.
Let you go, I can't let go.
And get washed into the background. So let's, again, put it in context. What does it sound like?
Let you go, I can't let go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Pretty good? Killing it. Okay, in terms of things that are jumping out to me now, it's a lot closer, to be honest. We definitely need to do some interesting panning. So this is where we're going to talk about our electric guitars. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electric guitar channels. If I look at my electric guitars, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is one of the rare occurrences where these are all channels that are doing something different. So if I solo all these together, let's have a listen. It's all different. Normally what we'll see is like maybe 2 or 3 guitar mics and they all look exactly the same waveform wise, and it's because we've had one amp but like 3 microphones on it. If that was the case, all of those mics should go to the same place. Oop, sorry. All of those should go to the same place, because otherwise we're going to feel like it's one take over heaps of places. Kind of the benefit of this is we can kind of be weird with our panning and do what we want. So let's put these out a little bit.
Even though I never stand by you.
So what I'm trying to do is not push these ones that are playing the whole time too far. They need to kind of be relatively in the middle there. Otherwise it's going to feel like everything's way over to one side, but that's not too bad. With my snare and my hi-hat and my rim shot, I personally don't really like to pan my snare, but with my toms we've already done that. Bass, low frequency element should sit in the center unless I am consciously doing some like Rodriguez 60s style mixing where I'm putting my bass on this side and then my drum kit on this side and I'm balancing the low frequencies on either side, like kick over here, bass over here. That would work. But in this case, I'm not doing that, so it doesn't matter. Saxophone and our trombone. If I jump down to the end in here, let's have a little look. See what this sounds like. Can I pan them? I can. Let's see what he sounds like in context.
I would never let you go. I can't let go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go.
Just swapping them to either side to see if one sits more naturally on one side. I kind of like it better that way, so that's pretty nice. With my backing vocals, I'm just going to find a little section where they sing again. Is there a longer bit? Not really. Let's have a look at this. Let's make that a more tight loop, otherwise we'll be here all day. Oh, come on, brain. Alright, let's loop that.
But it's time I gotta go.
Okay, so we only have one of these backing ones going for this
But
first
it's time
bit. I'm not going to put it weirdly off to the side.
I gotta go. I can't let go. But
What's it sound like if we go real hardcore with that and go all the way?
I can't let go.
Ooh, I like it. Let's see.
I would never let you go.
I kind of dig it. Might be a little bit too intense. Maybe we need to roll it back a little bit.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
I really dig the way that this sounds. My instinct is to mix it the way that I normally mix tracks, which is in more of like an indie, grungy, rock, dirty kind of way. I don't think this song needs it, but I'm going to have a look at it and see what it does to it. I want to look at parallel compression here. So I got these tight overheads. And I got this room mic, which is so good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a stereo aux. I'm going to pop that in here, and this is going to be my parallel compression. Now, what I want to do here is I want to just start off by creating a duplicate of my drum room. Now, what I am doing here is I'm going to bring that level up to 0, because what it's going to do is it's going to send, at the moment, my post fader level. I could send pre-fader, and then it's sending the same as the original version before it hit here. And then follow main panning is really useful for my drums. If I end up sending all these toms out to this subgroup or this parallel compression, I want them to follow the main panning, because if I've done panning here, I want that same panning to be translated in its aux sends as well, those bus sends. So just be aware of that, because sometimes we forget about it. So this guy's coming in bus 7 and 8, so we should have our overheads coming through in 2 channels. Great. Okay, it's a little bit quieter, which makes sense. Maybe we make it pre-fader, so they're even. Great. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. What I'm going to do with this is I'm gonna crush it. I'm gonna grab a compressor. Now, in terms of compressors, we could do a few different things. We could grab a multi-band compressor. This would allow us to process the different sections of it slightly differently. I want to show you in a very standard way to start. So we're gonna grab the Pro compressor again. We're gonna play it back. Now, what I want with this is I want it to be compressing as hard as it can. So I'm gonna give it a big ratio. I'm going to give it a fast attack. I'm going to give it a pretty fast release because I want it to kind of grab each part individually. Let's have a listen. Now what we're doing with this is we're crushing it. So we're turning all those boom, boom, pa, all those drums down. So it's just in there with the of all the cymbals. So let's make up the gain. That's our room mic normally. So maybe I only add a little bit of it in. Maybe that's also a little bit too intense. Maybe I want to roll it back a touch.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you.
Just beefs everything up a little bit. Listen to it with and without that.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Ooh, that snare cracks out, right? Look, generally this is pretty good. I really like that snare sound. And reinforced with these. It's got no weird ring to it or anything that I don't like, so let's leave it alone. I'm going to go back over to my kick drum. And I'm going to put an EQ on here. Mute that guy again. actually really good. It's actually really nice. Let's just sweep around in this low frequencies. We got some bassy. There's not much in this dead area up here. It's pretty nice. I could give it a little bit more if I wanted to. Just by a couple of dBs. And if I really wanted to look for that muddy boxiness around here. Around here so it sounds like you're hitting a cardboard box. Yeah, just evening it out a little bit.
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go.
I think the other part we need more of is our bass. That guy's solo isolated is coming through constantly. I mean, it's there. It could do with some compression, trying to pop it out a little bit, and it can also do with a little bit of EQ. And then I think we're going to move on for this part, and we're going to go and have a little bit of a look at our mastering processing very quickly. So let's pop an EQ on here so we can kind of see what's going on in terms of frequencies. Ooh, Arctic Monkeys. So that's kind of some nice bass tones. And I can also take out stuff that I'm using in my kick now. So if I press this little button, this plugin will stay on my screen. And then if I go down to this EQ, I can open this up, and then we can look at it side by side. So this one's 65 Hertz. This one's 85 Hertz. So I can take that down to 65, so that hopefully then my kick and my bass will have a little bit more room for each other. And we can push that a little bit.
I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Alright. I'm going to jump to here. I am going to put on a compressor. So we can go down to our Pro compressor. With this, remember what we said before. Slightly longer attack means that it's going to let the first bit boom, come through, and then it's going to start compressing. So
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go.
now I really like this. I want to bring out some of the string sound as well. It's about right. It's normally about 2K. Now it doesn't need to be crazy. I don't want to bring up a whole heap of extra shit, but let's have a listen.
This time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby.
First time, not too bad.
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. But this time I gotta go. I would never let you go.
Okay, so now we're going to do one more trick quickly to kind of give these two a little bit more space. I'm going to jump into my bass. I'm going to put on a compressor. Now let's use the stock standard one just because we haven't seen that one yet today. Dyne 3 compressor limiter. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to sidechain our kick to our bass so that when our kick plays, it compresses our bass. Again, sorry. When that ducks it down, we're going to give our kick drum just a little bit more space and volume to be able to pop out. So, how do we do this? What first of all we need to do is send our kick to an unused bus. Mono's fine. And it just needs to be a trigger signal. So, we want it to run all the time. So, pre-fader is totally fine. Now let's go into bus 9. On this compressor, we're going to say, hey, instead of listening to the sound that actually exists on this track, which in this case is our bass, can you listen to something else to tell you when to actually start compressing? So we're going to say, hey, can you listen to bus 9? And over in my little sidechain section, I'm going to say, hey, don't worry about EQing this trigger signal coming in. Like, don't worry about EQing the bass so you're compressing nicely. Worry about the sound that's coming from bus 9, from my key input. It's a tiny little picture of a key. That is also a picture of a key. It's our key input, our sidechain input. So, yeah, there's a compressor on our bass. You can see it's going when our kick drum does. Great. Now, what does a kick drum look like? Fast. Pretty damn fast. Yeah, see this turn down? Every time that kick drum plays. Oh, yeah. Now, if we bypass this, our kick's kind of just padding away in the background. But now, ooh, just pops out a little bit more, right? So, take these solos off. Let's listen to it.
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go.
Classic. All right. So look, it's halfway there, right? We're gonna look now at exporting this as a bounce, and then we're gonna look at stock standard mastering with Pro Tools basic plugins, right? So let's do this quickly. Okay, so I have my track. Let's find the point where my track ends.
Let you go. But this time I gotta
Okay, so it ends a little bit early, but it goes up till about here, right? So I'm going to bring my cursor all the way down to the start from that point. And I'm going to create a marker. Now, if you have a numeric keypad on your keypad, you can hit enter on the numeric keypad, or you can go up to window and do it that way. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say save a selection. And this is my whole track selection. Cool. So now I could be anywhere in my session, and on my numeric keypad, I could hit full stop, 1, full stop, and it has highlighted that selection, which is super cool. So now, a couple of ways we can do it. One, we can create a print track. If I was to create a print track, I would create a stereo audio track, just like this, and, oh, where'd he go? There it is. And with my stereo audio track, what I would be doing is I would take every track here that is going out to output 1 and 2, my headphones, my speakers, what I'm listening to, and I would take all of these guys and I would select them. So out here, still all of these ones, that one, not these guys. So now I'm going to hot swap from holding shift to command. And I'm going to go to my lead vox, and then I'm going to go to these ones, and then these are audio tracks. Now I'm going to hold down option shift, which means I'm going to apply the same setting to all my selected tracks, and I'm going to send these to a stereo bus that I'm not using. Now, all of those tracks are all going to bus 11 and 12. So if I come over here and I say, hey, can you look at bus 11 and 12? Should be my whole mix. When it wants to stop. Look at that, doing exactly what the master fade is doing. That's my whole mix here. So if I call this, whatever this track is called, this is my mixed file, and say okay, and I can hit record. We hit 3 to record it. I'd have to record it all out, right? That's 30 seconds. I don't want to waste that time. A lot of the time this can be really nice. I like to do this for my sessions because then I get to listen to the whole thing and be like, it actually sounds whack in this part. I'm glad I listened to it through. I'm going to go back and fix that. But for this, if we have a quick look, there's one thing I just remembered and I'm going to be annoyed at myself if I don't do it. With my guitars, I actually really like the way they sound and their processing is all very unique. So there's not really any heavy processing I need to do to separate things, but I want to remove any excess low frequencies so that I have more space for my kick drum and my bass to actually pop through in the mix. So what I'm going to do is just solo these guys. We're going to have a little listen. I have to take that one away, take record off, input monitor, because now we're running through this guy, and solo isolate it. So we should hopefully hear our guitar. There we go. Okay, so with this guitar, whole heap of bass it doesn't need. So I'm gonna hold down Option and copy this to the next track. Okay, just giving it a little bit of space. Move on to the next one, which is this one. Oh, I just remembered I did this stupid thing, which is not changing to the new plugin. Cool. Swap to the next plugin. Select it. Great. Move on. Go to the part where it plays. And loop a tiny little bit. I can still take that much out without it having any big impact. Move to the next one, click the next plugin. Now this one sounds bigger and bassier, right? But look how much we can remove without making a difference. Pretty good. And then our final one down here. Cool. With my organs. They got some nice bass. They got some extra junk up in this mid-range where my bass was. Just tidy it up a little bit. Saxophone. Ugh. Feel like this is meant to go "ba-na" at the end of that. And trombone. Every time. I'll copy this one back. Throughout settings. And that's making no difference, right? So we're just cleaning out extra weird harmonics in here.
I would never let you go, baby.
Look, I could be a lot more detailed with my EQ. I don't want to spend a whole heap of time on that right now because that's not what our focus is. So I'm going to go back to 0, 1, or point, 1, point. And now I've highlighted my selection of my whole track. Now, instead of printing it, which I would normally do, I don't want to waste the time on that. So we're going to go Option, Command B, which is bounce. And we want to bounce the main output, the stuff going out to 1 and 2. I'm going to say that that's a fine name for it. No problem. We're going to say bounce offline. Go nuts. Now, as this is bouncing, we're going to end up with our stereo mix file. What I might do a lot of the time is actually open up a new session to do my mastering processing in, just so that I don't have a whole heap of plugins for my mix running at the same time, and I can also just know that I have a mastering session and a mix session for the sake of today, just to make this as smooth as possible. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these tracks, and I am going to make a new group with all these extra ones, and I'm going to say everything too. And now I'm going to right click on all these selected tracks, and I'm going to say hide and make inactive, which means they disappear, so we can kind of pretend that they don't exist in our session, and like this is a fresh new mastering session. Now I'm going to import that track, so I'm going to go Command I to import, or I could be lazy and drag and drop it. I'm going to go into my folders, so we've got my documents. We have this session, which is the example mix session. I have bounced files, and it's the only bounced file. I'm going to add it to my session. Great. Put it on a new track. For sure. Done deal. Is it a silent file, or is it just rendering? Lol. We screwed up. Okay. So this is good. This is why we check it. So show and make active. It'll take a little hot second for it to get all up to speed. Okay, so it was bouncing from output 1 and 2. This is where we went wrong. We didn't record anything onto 1 and 2. We sent everything to our sub mix. So let's do this again. I'm going to mute that guy because it doesn't exist. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to input monitor this. Alright, we're functioning, yeah? Point, 1 point, select my highlighted part, Command, Option, B, go to here, and then we send everything to 11 and 12. So let's do that, because then we know it's going to come through just fine. So we say bounce. We do this again, and we hopefully end up with a WAV file that has audio on it. Fun fact, with our WAV files, they're going to be the same file size every time. If it's the loudest file or the quietest file, it's going to be the same amount of megabytes. So you will see that when we look in Finder, when we go to import this, could just waited till it finished, but if we go into our bounced files, you will see that there is this one and that one, and they are exactly the same, even though one of them has no sound on it. If that was a compressed MP3 file, if it was encoded in one of a couple of ways, it would actually be a smaller file type if it was a quiet, completely silent audio file. So, fun facts. Okay, so Command Shift I, let's go back to import, grab the new one that has audio on it, we add it, sure, put it on a new track. That's fine, I'll get rid of this old one. There you go. That looks like a mix file. Let me zoom out a little bit just so we can see the dynamics on this guy. Pretty dynamic. Look at that. We got some weird peaks happening in here, and the track seems to gradually build towards the end. Let's check it plays back correctly. I'm not trying to do weird fades here. Great. Sounds awesome. Okay, so mastering, right? We talk about mastering and why and how and what does it do? With our mastering processing, essentially a couple of key things that we're trying to do with it. One, we're trying to even it out and make it louder so that we don't have quiet parts and loud parts. That's fine to have some quiet parts and some loud parts on a record at home. If you're in the car, if you have headphones on, you're walking down the street, you don't want the first half of your song to be inaudible and then it get crazy loud at the end of the song. So we need to even it out. Mastering is also used for us to get it set up for the different release platforms. If I'm releasing something on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, a digital platform of some sort, up until recently, it's kind of been the Wild West. You could kind of do whatever you wanted. But now there are some loudness limitations that we have to work within. If you think about physical waveform, you're releasing something on cassette tape, or you're releasing something on a vinyl, there is only so much that needle in that groove can move, or that tape head can actually collect. So we need to be a lot more conscious for physical media, because we need to make sure that we're recording a sample and we're mastering it in a way where it's going to be the best it can possibly be on that platform. So if you release your stuff on vinyl and online, you're probably going to need to do a few masters for each of those different release platforms, or you're going to need to send your tracks to a mastering engineer. But let's talk about basic mastering. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new master fader. I am also going to create, I just held down Command Shift and then the down arrow to create a new one. I am going to create, let's do it this way so that you can see every single stage, 2 auxiliaries and a master fader. So, with this, I'm going to show you this processing, but just hold 1 second. This is going to be my final master. Actually, yeah, that's fine. And then we're going to make this one our EQ and compression stage, and then we're going to make our next track our limiting stage. And I'm going to talk through these different ones. Technically, I could put all these, I don't need all these tracks, I could just put all these plugins on one track. I like doing it this way because then you can see the levels at the different stages, and 2, you know exactly what's happening to your audio. It's also a lot easier to explain that way. So, let's have a quick look. So I have my original track. Now what I want this original track to do is pass through my EQ and compressor, then pass through my limiting, and then be listenable to me at the end. So how do we do that? 1, with our output, I need this to go to a bus. Now, there's all these buses back in our session, but it's telling me that they don't exist anymore, which they don't. So we can just pretend like it's a fresh session. So this guy's going out to bus 1 and 2. So therefore, this track needs to listen to bus 1 and 2. Now this one is going to send out to another bus, 3 and 4. And now this track needs to hear that one. So it needs to look for 3 and 4. And now this one is going to go out to our master. So this is our master. So what we should see is the level should be exactly the same on all 4 of these tracks. Yep, sure is. 10.8 across the board. So what are we doing? With our EQ, our goal with our EQ in our mastering stage is not to make it sound bigger and better. If it sounds shitty in the mix, it's going to sound shitty in the master. So our goal is to essentially look for any weird sub-frequencies. Right now I'm mixing on headphones. I'm not mixing with a proper speaker system. I'm not going to hear it the same way. Realistically, I'm going to need to take this track, listen to it in my car, listen to it on proper speakers, take it in a whole heap of different environments. But even then, if I'm listening on something that has a big heavy bass to it or something like that, like a sub, then I'm going to want to make sure that I'm not going to blow up that sub. So this is going to take off any excess bass frequencies that are down below 20 hertz. I can make that filter a little bit steeper. And it's going to do the same up in the high frequency. So if there's any weird, bright high frequencies that are going to mess with my processing, it's going to get rid of them. So shouldn't really see much difference here. It's changed the level slightly. It's taken away some of my volume. Not a big deal. It sounds the same. If I play it back,
I'm leaving, but I'll be back someday.
should be the same. All right. The next part is a compressor before my limiter. Why? A compressor is the same as a limiter, but with different ratios. Yeah, but see this track? I've got this peak here. I got these snappy boy peaks that come out. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I send that into a limiter, as soon as one of those loud ones hits my limiter, it's going to have to crush it down, and I'm going to start hearing some artifacts and distortion in there. I don't want that. So I'm going to show you again, stock standard plugins. Not a big fan of using like just totally rolling with plugins like this and their basic presets, but this clean limit is really useful. And it's pretty much 90% done. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go to the loudest section of my song, which these peaks here are kind of the loudest section of my song. And what I want to do is I'm going to set this compressor up with really heavy settings. It's got a heavy ratio. I can roll that back and adjust it if I want to. But my goal here is I'm going to bring this threshold down until just these loudest parts are the only things going over my threshold. So
I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. This time
okay, so you can see this gain reduction happening here. Have a quick look at that while I play the loudest part back.
this time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby.
See how it's just pulling it down for a fraction of a second? I might give it a slightly longer release time so it just grabs it a little bit more.
This time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby.
So see these incoming levels? It's a bit different on my left and my right, and now it's kind of flattening it and evening.
This time I gotta go. I would never let you go, baby. I would never let you go.
So it seems like the loudest it's turning it down, even for a second, is 3 dB. That's fine, right? So what that sets us up with now is we have something that is flattened out a little bit. If we look at our
This
left,
time I gotta go. I would never let.
is our original. It's being turned down a tiny bit, so only by a few sections of a couple of dBs. Now we're going to go to our limiting stage. Now, again, stock standard plugins. There is the Maxim limiter, maximizer. Essentially with this, couple of things. One, in mastering, there is this thing called dither. What that does is it adds a whole heap of noise in the background that is kind of analog noise to make it not as glitchy with the it's the easiest way of explaining it is we might have some digital harmonics and some digital distortion happening in the low range of our track that doesn't sound as nice. Adding dithering allows that to, oh look, there you go. Dither masks quantization noise by adding non-correlated noise, so like analog sounding noise to the signal. It's used as a last step in mastering. If you have this type of Maxim plugin on like your drum bus, your guitar bus, and you turn dithering on all of it, don't, because it shouldn't be there. All this noise shaping stuff down here is also to do with that, so just don't worry about it. With my ceiling, I don't want it to be 0, 0. I'm going to set it to either 0.1 or 0.3. This is an inaudible difference of volume. So with that tiny little extra bit, it means that I'm not going to have any clipping. I'm not going to have anything that gets uploaded somewhere and the algorithm looks at that zeros and ones of that audio file and glitches it or distorts it in some sort of way. It's going to be pretty clean. But now the fun bit, when I play it back, I'm going to see some waveforms popping up on the side here. So let's do that quickly. So this is saying this is the average level, and then I have little peaks that are flicking up to here. Now, with my threshold, if I pull this down and I go beyond that, it will go red, which is saying, hey, if you compress it this much, there's going to be some distortion. We don't want that. So I'm going to pull this down. And this compressor is automatically adding makeup gain as we pull that down. So as you compress it more, it is boosting it louder. So it will feel louder immediately when we pull this down. I would never let you go. I would never let you go. Great. Now that that's done, there's one final thing that I would be getting you to do. It's not a stock... Sorry. It's not a stock standard plugin. If we look at Sound Field, I have Isotope Insight. There are multiple different plugins that you can use that are like some free to download ones. Insight is really good. What this is going to do is it's going to show me the loudness levels over time. So let's play this back and see what it's looking like. I would never let you go. So that's showing me my stereo spread. It's telling me at the moment my integrated LUFS, which is my loudness units full scale, is 11.6. The average when we're putting it up on somewhere like YouTube or SoundCloud or whatever is we're aiming for around about -13. Now you got to look at it because that changes from time to time, so you got to make sure you're on top of it. Some things look for -14, some are -13. Do the research before you upload it to that place, but this is where you need to know what you're doing. So what we would do now is we would play this back the whole way through to see where our levels are sitting, and it looks like we might need to ease back our compressor and our limiter a little bit.
Even though I never stand by your side, I never ask how your day went by.
Look, we'll go through the whole thing. It's pretty good. I probably would need to tweak that a little bit, and I would maybe look at adding some different processing, maybe some saturation to it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to find the correct length for this file, and actually no, I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to select that whole track. I'm going to go Option Command B, just because it will be quicker, and we're going to go bounce, and now it's bouncing. I think that's actually incorrect. Hold on, we cancel. Command Shift B, not N, B. Output 1 and 2. Yeah, cool. It is 1 and 2. I was just checking that it wasn't still on 11 and 12 from before, because if it was, we would be still bouncing our original mix, or essentially silence, because none of these tracks are active. So this is now our example master, and we are good to bounce, so we can say go, do the thing. And nearly done. Stomach's rumbling, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Okay, so I got to bounce. Now I'm gonna bring that track back in. It's like, why do I export it and bring it back in and export it? For demonstration purposes, you could do this as printing it rather than bouncing it, and then it's already in your session. Then you don't need to do all this stuff. But if we're bouncing it, it speeds it up a little bit. Now, look at that waveform. That is a way chunkier waveform, right? You can still see there's good dynamics in this. It's quiet in the front section, then it builds up. That's allowed now. If you want it to be chunkier and fatter than that, look at your mix, look at the way you're processing it. But we're talking bare minimum basic mastering right now. Okay, to the final part, right? I'm going to trim this down. I'm going to just highlight that and delete it. Now what I'm doing is checking what this would be like if I hit play. So I'm just going to pop a little fade on there. Do I want the whole thing? Does the band maybe not want this first kind of roll in, but just want it from that part? That's a conversation I have with your band. I like it like that, so let's move on. Get down to the end of the track. Let's have a look. Cool. I kind of feel like it should end a bit earlier, so I'm going to pop a fade on here. Let's see what this sounds like. I want it to speed up. So just double click that, and I'm going to change it to something that has a more intense curve to it. And then I can bring it back so it'll suck it out. See? Rolls it out real quick. And then when would I expect the next track to start? Boom. Even a little bit earlier than that. Yep, great. Okay, cool. So now that this is here, I can export it. The only thing is if I have put fades on top of it, they're not rendered onto the audio yet. So to render something on, Option Shift 3 is consolidate. And that has consolidated those fades onto that file. So if we go all the way down to the end, we have that consolidated. Fades out nice and tightly. Fantastic. So now I'm going to select this audio file. I am going to say Option Command B, and this is now our final master. I choose what settings it needs to be. Like, for example, a CD is 4416. I can add an MP3. I say bounce, it'll give me this MP3 thing, and I say who is the artist, what album is it from, what genre is it. It's someone that said pranks. Pranks, great. Pranks. And now we say okay. And it's going to bounce it. It's shorter now, which makes sense, right? And if I go to my files, this will be in my documents, in my Pro Tools sessions, in here as my final master. And the final thing to do is to check it and make sure it actually works, right? So all those bounces were around that kind of 70 megabyte era. When this is finished, just for file comparison, my initial bounce, there you go, trimmed back a little bit, 40 megabytes, 9 megabytes. It is not even a quarter of the file size. So think about what that's doing. It is stripping a whole heap of information. Your WAV file is always going to be higher quality, but our MP3 is fine. We need to check that it actually sounds okay. So what I can do is I'm just going to open it with VLC because that's easy. Cool. We winged this, right? What would be ideal is for me to go through, do some fine-tuning automation on different sections so that the levels sit really nicely between the verse and the chorus. Seeing if I can separate out the instruments anymore so that they really clearly sit in their areas. There is more stuff that we can do, right? But this is as a speed thing. If you're doing live sound, you don't have the option to sit around for 4 days and try and make it sound pretty. You need to look at what needs to be done now and fix it. But essentially, with this, we're done. We created our file. Those mix files are ready to be uploaded to wherever they need to get uploaded to. And we're organized, right? So I have these files. We're set up. If I want to upload it to SoundCloud, YouTube, whatever else at this point, I'm good. My background settings in here. Don't worry about it. Cool. So in terms of our session, what we've just talked through, basic idea for getting a general mix set up, getting yourself in a position to go through, find what needs to be done, some basic Pro Tools routing, some compression, some parallel compression, some side chaining, and our basic bare minimum mastering. This is not true mastering. If you want it true mastered and you want it to sound really nice and fine-tuned, send it to a real mastering engineer. Or do way more research than just this video. But this is me showing you the most possible basic way, just so it's louder when you go to upload it and you go to listen to it back yourself. Otherwise, that's it. Hopefully this was useful. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything else specific you want to learn. But otherwise, have a great day. We'll see you later.